If you're an established business owner and you struggle to continue the conversation, this video is just for you. In other words, you struggle to follow up. In other words, you struggle to stay top of mind. In other words, you are not communicating with your customers consistently. This video is just for you. What's going on, everybody? My name is Terrell Humphrey, and welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. Over the last half a decade, we produced over 893 podcast episodes while helping 30 entrepreneurs launch their podcast in a short span of time. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that the conversation has to continue. When you are getting your customer, when you get your customer, then after you get your customer, you have to continue the conversation. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get it started. So point number one, and let's just be honest, since we all in business and we do business, conduct business, follow up. Hold on. First off, understand follow up. Understand follow up. Understand follow up. Now, I can say understand follow up. I can say my follow up game is not that good. However, I'm starting to recognize that it's important to follow up with people who have communicated with you, who have contacted you, who have signed up for a lead magnet, who have signed up for a webinar, who have signed up for a podcast, who have signed up for something. Why? Because when I continue the conversation, I'm not just trying to sell you today. I'm trying to provide value over time. And I tell you this, over time makes a relationship, over time builds trust. It hit me yesterday, like it finally made sense yesterday. I'm like, oh, hold on. What does that even consist of? That consists of this. I have to be okay with reaching out consistently. When I started in business a while ago, half a decade ago, and when I started working my first two mentors, Mike Imbruglia and Steve Anderson, they helped me learn more about real estate. Well, my first entrepreneurs mentors. And when I started working with them, I was learning more about, how to do the work, how to do the job, and how to be consistent. But every day, we had to continue the conversation with previous clients that we've had recently spoken with, or they recently spoken with. And at the time, I'm thinking they were called leads or potential leads. That was called potential leads. Potential leads. Mainly because they haven't converted, like they haven't sold their house. Like at the time it was real estate, but nonetheless, those potential leads were opportunities. I'm thinking just because they didn't answer the phone today, they're not going to answer the phone. But it was like, well, what if they do answer the phone? What if they answer the phone the day that you call them, and then you understand where they're coming from? See, I was too immature to understand what selling was, what following up was, what continue the conversation consisted of. The conversation can happen at any time. Any time someone can pick up the phone. Anytime you can see somebody. Anytime you can have a conversation with somebody. It's not planned. However, you have to be okay with continue the conversation. It doesn't matter how many times you reach out to them. It matters that you reach out to them. And that's what it finally made sense to me yesterday. Because I had a webinar yesterday, right? I had an online training. And 4 people register for it. Register for it. And 12 p.m. came. Because that was when the second call was. So 12 p.m. came. And nobody, I'm talking about none of the 4 showed up. I'm gonna put a 0 through that. I'm gonna put a line through that. Then I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, hold on. I remember going to all these different conferences and all these business conferences, and they talk about that you got to be okay with following up. As you're following up, you got to understand that people are busy. And I'm like, okay, what does that actually mean? When I go to the dentist, when I go to and when I have an appointment, they literally, I'm talking about literally, call a week before the scheduled date. Just for you to confirm, like, hey, are you still coming? If you say yes, then fine. If you say no, then I guess they reschedule. To be honest, I never said no. I just always said confirmed. Nonetheless, what were they doing? They were continuing the conversation. They were following up. They were staying top of mind. Yes, my appointment is a week from now. Nonetheless, this week I received a notification. And it hit me yesterday. I'm like, okay, these four people, these four entrepreneurs who didn't show up on the call, why? I don't know. So you know what I did? I called them. I'm like, hey, what's going on? My name is Terrell Humphrey with the Lunch Your Podcast in Less Than 90 Minutes training. I was just calling to confirm, are you still joining the training today at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time? When I said that, I was like, oh my goodness, that's good. That's good. One, because I introduced myself, I introduced why I was calling them, and I just wanted to reach out to see if they was going to join the call. One answered, two didn't answer, two responded to text messages. What did that teach me? That taught me something. Okay. Just because they didn't show up here at the 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time training to Lunch Your Podcast in Less Than 90 Minutes, just because they didn't show up there, I rescheduled it to 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. And I reached out to them again. Two of them replied. One did reply. The other one didn't. So there are 2 out of 4. Conversation is continued. Conversation is continued. It is continued. What does that mean? I'm following up. Just because they might not join yesterday's training, why can't they join another time? They were interested. They went through the funnel. They went through the process, submitted their information, start receiving reminders. So I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. What if I continue to do that? What if I continue the conversation? What if I stay top of mind? Not just posting online, nah. But actually staying top of mind to communicate with my future customers, with my future collaborators, with my future partners. Is it a lot? I'll tell you this. DJ, what it do, man? Is it a lot? Absolutely. You call this a database. And in this database, it has, well, you can reach out to people. Well, in your database, okay? I'm like, Hold on. If they responded when I reached out to them, there's a lot of people who had interest in the podcast, who wanted to launch their podcast, who wanted to build trust through podcasting. My problem was that I only had one interaction. Let's say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1-3 conversations. That alone, like 1 or 3 conversations, that alone is not enough. It's not enough to meet the customer where they're at. And yesterday, it finally made sense. I'm like, oh, okay, business is more than just like, you're not going to get sales today, but you can get sales the more you show up, the more you follow up, the more you speak, reach out, The more you stay top of mind, people might not buy today, but you give them an option to buy when they're ready. Continuing the conversation is giving the people the option to buy when they are ready. And it finally made sense to me yesterday. I was like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm not bothering people. We are helping people. We are helping people. Hold on. So what you're telling me that sales, that following up, that marketing might appear annoying. However, when people come into your world and you start to provide value and you start to help them and you help them overcome a failure, oh man, you're doing more than just continue the conversation. You're demonstrating your expertise. You're demonstrating your patience. You're demonstrating the understanding of where they are at. I follow up with someone who did a podcast at the Tampa Business Summit Expo. They did a live podcast, and I followed with them, and I called them, and I didn't do the introduction good, but I still got them on the phone, and I communicated, and I said, hey, this is Terrell Humphrey. They said their name. I was like, oh dang, I didn't say where I'm from. But that's okay. I got you on the phone, and then when I start communicating, it's like, oh, okay, what's happening? I'm continuing the conversation. So I had the phone call, and then once we got off the phone, I sent the text message. AGE. I sent the text message. Okay, why? I want to continue the conversation. You see, trust is not built because you're having one conversation. I looked this up on ChatGPT because I had a class yesterday for project management, and prior to the class, like before I went there, I was thinking about the customer experience. I was thinking about like what matters for the customer. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, man, okay, what can I do to really have an experience for my customers? It's not the fact that everybody's is the same. So I went on ChatGPT and I started asking questions around what builds trust. Why does it build trust? How and why is it important? In addition to that, what breaks trust? And they say communication. What the ChatGPT said, communication is one of the top barriers that people have. If you're not communicating with people, how would they know what to expect? It's not the fact that you're communicating them to be annoying. You're communicating with them to show them that you care. Communication, hold on. Communication shows you care. Communication shows you care. In other words, when you continue the conversation, you show that you care about your customer's experience. It's more important to think like your customer and to recognize, okay, as I'm a customer, because I'm a customer to a lot of different things. What do I want? What do I need? What do I value? Being in the know. Hold on. Being in the know. Questions answered. Questions answered. And value presented. There's a terminology, I talked about this yesterday. It was actually pretty good. I said it. It was a terminology called buyer's remorse. Whenever you go buy something, a couple of days later, you regret it. Because from my understanding, a lot of people stop reaching out to you. They start communicating with you, and they stop continuing the conversation. It's like once you buy it, it stops. In fact, I'm guilty of it. Once you help me or share your story, whatever the case is, it's like it stops. But I'm like, why should it stop? Excuse me. I have to proactively continue the conversation. As I proactively continue the conversation, a lot of people might not reach out. That's fine. But the goal is to continue the conversation. If I continue the conversation, eventually they will reach out. Hold on. That's crazy. That was good. If you proactively continue the conversation, eventually they will reach back out to you. But it's the eventually, guess what? That takes time. And I was doing something subconsciously, like I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just doing it. But then I thought about it, like, wait, that's important. Communication is important. Updating is important. Explaining the next steps are important. Communication is what continues the conversation. It continues the conversation. My thing was what I struggled with when I got into business and start learning about business, start doing business, all these different things, was that, okay, what's happening? Why is it happening? And how can I be better in it? What's happened is that people was interested. I get them on the podcast where I learn more about their story. And then after the editing and it's published, I just stopped the communication. But the amount of time that it took me to follow up with them, for me to communicate with them, for me to get them on the podcast, I stopped all of that work because I stopped communicating with them. Like, what? What? The conversation has to continue. Not just with your podcast, but in a way that continue to provide value. That's the next point I want to hit on, is that you have to provide value consistently. Is it hard to be in business? Yes. Is it impossible to be in business? No. Is it doable to be in business? Absolutely. But if you don't provide value consistently and you always got your hand out, that value slowly destroys. Like, it gets eliminated. I called one of my buddies. I just got to continue the conversation with him as well. And I called him. I said, man, do you have any event going on? Do you have anything that you would need help with that I can be a service of? He was like, no, what you mean? Like, what are you referring to? I'm like, any way I can help. I'm just looking to serve. I'm just looking to help. Why? Because I want to lead with value instead of having my hand out. I'm not looking for nothing in return. I want to continue the conversation. Continuing the conversation is more important than receiving something today. So then, hold on. Then I got to thinking about almost all my mentors, and I tell you, I got a lot. I've got a lot of mentors. Why? Because I'm a slow learner. Okay, I'm a slow learner. But just because I'm a slow learner, when it clicks, I guarantee it registers. I guarantee it makes sense. I guarantee I start to execute a lot faster. You see, this topic about continuing the conversation finally clicked. Oh, why did it click? It clicked because now it makes sense. All of the work, let's say relationship one. Not an intimate relationship. I'm married. I'm talking about partnership, collaborations. So relationship two. Relationship 3. Relationship 4. Let's just stop at 4 because relationship is a big word. Well, it's a long word. Nonetheless, okay, I got 4 relationships with different people in different industries doing different things. If I do an interview with them, and they agree to it, okay, that's fine. Whereas if I do an interview with them, do the podcast with them, and I stop communicating with them, that relationship won't be a relationship no more. Because it's not the fact that we agreed to do a podcast. It's more so that we agreed to have a conversation. We agreed to build the relationship. We agreed to establish the relationship. We agreed to communicate. But what happened, what I was doing, is that after I hit publish, I would send them an update, then I would stop the communication. What I started to do, in fact, when we made $386.40 a couple weeks ago, this is me. Hold on. This is a phone. I don't know how to draw a phone. No, I'm thinking old school. That's crazy. All right, this is a phone. So I got an iPhone. And I make calls. I made calls to majority of everyone that has helped me along this journey. In fact, I have to finish that today. And I'm going to finish that. Why? Because what happens is that relationship, the relationship that I've established over the years, don't get destroyed. In fact, they are actually building. They remain solid. Why? Because I'm leading with value. Why? Because you said something that helped me, and I want to tell you how you helped me, how it worked, how I implemented it. You see, continuing the conversation is more than just saying, buy this product, buy this service, buy this solution. It's saying, I want to continue the relationship. It's saying that I want to continue staying top of mind. It's saying that I want to continue showing up. And it used to bother me a lot. I ain't gonna lie to you. It used to bother me a lot when I noticed that I'm one of the only ones that reach out. But then I got to a point where it's like, well, I mean, that's fine. Because my goal is not to proactively reach out, and then in return, you start reaching out to me. No, majority of the time, my goal is to be proactively reach out, to continue the conversation. And it never made sense. It never like registered. But for some reason, it recently started to make sense. Because when ChatGPT, not even when ChatGPT, it was like, I had this realization before I went to class. Wait, hold on. It was after the second webinar and nobody showed up. And I'm like, man, hold on. What's going on? I reached out to them. I communicated with them. I followed up. I sent text messages. I'm communicating. I'm continuing the conversation. Then I start to recognize, like, wait, hold on. There's something here, and what's here is more than just trust. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. That relationship creates opportunities. Hold on. Relationship creates opportunities. Relationship creates opportunities. Well, when are the opportunities gonna come? Don't know, to be honest. I'm appreciative of them, but that's not my focus. I'm not doing something to get something in return. I'm proactively continuing the conversation because I genuinely just want to continue the conversation. Like, you know how long it took me to get around the right people? And then what I was struggling is that just because it took me long to get around the right people, I don't need to break their relationship. I need to continue the relationship. You see, opportunities comes in disguise. Because if you're not providing value, then there will be no opportunities established. So now I'm like, okay, it is overwhelming. It's a bit overwhelming. But it pays. That's wrong terminology. It matters to continue the conversation. It matters to continue the conversation. It's not the fact that it's bad. More than anything, it positions you differently. It matters to continue the conversation. Once you continue the conversation, that relationship is more than just a relationship. It's like, oh, it's mind blowing. Why? Because I'm not calling, asking you for anything. I'm just calling, hey man, you just came across my mind and I want to call and see how everything was going. I call to genuinely check on people. I don't call to say, hey man, I got this offer. Would you like to buy it? I would like to continue the conversation. Hold on. Last one that we're going to talk about is this, is that you have to track the conversations. I ain't going to say track. I'm going to say organize the conversations. I'm going to say organize the conversations. ORGAN. Organize the conversations. Point number 3, organize the conversations. All right, just to recap what we talked about thus far. Number 1, understand follow-up. When you continue the conversation, you're following up. You're staying top of mind. You're just leading with value, okay? Point number 2 is that you have to provide value. Every time you call, you don't have to ask for something. You don't have to have your hand out. In fact, remove your hand. Remove your hand and see how can you help them. You're leading with value because your focus is on them, on their win. Lastly, what we're going to talk about is to organize the conversations. What does this mean? Let's go back to the database. Let's go back to that database earlier, right? So, it's overwhelming to track everything. It is. Overwhelming. Okay? It is overwhelming. Put a star to track everything that you're doing. Okay? However, it's important to remain organized. As you remain organized, just know you can always refer back to it. I was in this program prior to me even getting this program. I did a podcast with Dave with Redbox Plus Dumpsters. And when I did the podcast with him, prior to me doing the podcast with him, he was organized. He knew every customer that he came encounter with. And when I saw that, it just like blew my mind. I'm like, man, what the mess? You disorganized. You're disconsistent. And now I understand why. Because he had a trophy that was like number 1 salesman. He was like number 1 salesman. I'm like, I asked him, I said, how you become number 1? And he got to talking, he got to explaining, he got to expressing. But more than anything, what I saw, he became number 1 because he was organized. He knew his numbers. He knew how to continue the conversation. He knew how to follow up. He knew how to understand the customer's needs. It blew my mind. I was already learning it, but to see it implemented at that higher level, it taught me something. Why? Because organizing helps you remain consistent. Organization helps you be consistent. It helps you remain focused. It helps you remain top of mind. It helps you not be all over the place. You have a path to follow. This path is more than just a road. It's a proven system. It's a proven blueprint. It's a proven outcome that creates opportunities. This creates a proven path. You see, if it didn't pay off, a lot of people wouldn't take that path. My wife and I went to the sales conference. Shout out to my dog Davian. He invited us, and we went to this event that was talking about sales, that was talking about following up, that was talking about business, that was talking about marketing, that was talking about team development. They were talking about their wins. Okay, when we got there, their wins was showcased, because when they got on stage, hold on, stage on the wrong place. When they got on stage, this is called a stage. And then us being in the audience saw that. Okay. He was talking, and we were listening. What happened is that the path that he was on led the audience to understand what he was talking about. He had pictures on the screen. He had a story to share. He had numbers to prove. He had testimonials. It doesn't work because you're not working it. It works because you have intention to work it. Intentionality creates a path. Intentionality continues the conversation. Being proactive instead of reactive continues the conversation. Instead of waiting to reach out to people, reach out to people. Because when you continue the conversation, you are intentionally creating a path. You are intentionally creating a relationship. You are intentionally creating opportunities. Opportunities are not going to come to you if you don't do anything. Opportunities get presented to those who are proactively seeking them. And as you do this, you start to recognize that continuing the conversation is the number one skill in business. Because if you don't follow up, you won't be in business. Let me just rephrase that. Since I wasn't following up, it was hard for me to accumulate the results that I was looking for because I was not continuing the conversation. I was ending the conversation. I was stopping the conversation. I did not make the conversation last so our relationship can continue to build over time. As I start to work on it today, there will be intention behind it. So just to recap everything that we talked about today, point number one is that you have to understand follow-up. Follow-up is so important when it comes to business. What I recognize, what I've learned is that I have to do it on a daily basis and recognize that it takes time, but the time that I'm putting in to communicate, I have to proactively, continue the conversation. Point number two is provide value. Don't reach out always asking for something. Reach out asking them if they need something. And that has helped me so many different times. And it's just mind is a game changer on how much that's impactful. Lastly, organize the conversations. Every conversation that you have, just document it and just track it so you can know when you reach out to them, when you follow up, and all these different things. So that way you're organized and you're not going based off your memory. You're going off what the data is saying. Because what I'm learning, the more people that come into my world, the more I have to do a lot of following up. Eventually, I will have to have a team to help me follow up. Nonetheless, the steps will be in place so we can follow up effectively. So if you're an established business owner who struggle to launch your podcast, who always wanted to create content, who always wanted to build trust with your customers, shoot us an email at Terrell at TERRYL at failureisnknowledge.com, because we help established business owners build trust through podcasting. It's not just about creating content. It's about building authority, because now you are proactively staying top of mind. Lastly, make sure you hit that follow and subscribe. Now, lastly, don't be afraid to fail, because failure is knowledge.